Greetings, Vault citizens. Johnny 5 Alive, your Vault Overseer here, and welcome to another Fallout 4 video. And today we're going to be giving you guys a tips and tricks guide for building in settlement mode for Fallout 4. So stay tuned and let's check it out. Alright everyone, there's a lot to go over in this video, but generally what I really want to cover is the Place Everywhere mod. So I'll have a link in the description below for Place Everywhere, but it's the key thing that I use when building my settlements in Fallout 4, and that's generally what we're going to cover here, as well as anything else that I can feature that's a bonus. I never ended up showing this in any of the videos, but Codsworth is trimming the bushes, and that's a part of one of my mods here. And while we're going over the tools and the tips and tricks for all the tools, part of your tools is your mods. So for example, Easy Home Builder, in the landscape you will get these bushes. As you can see here, they have this arrow. That arrow indicates Codsworth or any other Mr. Handyman robots that you have in your game. If you put a bush this way, a handy robot will come by and trim the bush from the side. So this is the one mod that I would definitely decorate front sides of your buildings with if you have handy robots in your game. And I believe you can build some or get some mods for them with the Automatron robot building DLC. So again, some of this stuff will go through my mods because my mods are actually tools that'll help you build. So there are reasons to pick these bushes over other bushes, and something like this doesn't have one. So those are a part of our building set. But let's get right on into our main feature, which is Place Everywhere. In settlement mode, I'm actually using an Xbox controller. I prefer playing this game with a controller for some reason. It feels more, just because the controls weren't intuitive for PC. I didn't like the controls at all. It feels way more intuitive with an Xbox controller, and I would go as far to say I actually prefer building with a controller. However, you will need a keyboard handy or nearby for settlement building, because Place Everywhere has so many hotkeys that there's just not enough hotkey. You can't hotkey all that stuff to a controller, or it'd be very, very difficult. So let's start off with some of the basics. We're gonna just place down a block. So we're gonna go into structures, wood, and we're gonna put down a floor piece. So you'll notice by default that it snaps to the ground, or it wants to snap, or it wants to snap to one another. Now there are times where by default you don't have any tools to allow you to place it exactly where you want it. One of my most used keys is F1. It turns snapping off. So now I can essentially create these dynamic rounded shapes, which I wasn't able to do before. And obviously with Place Anywhere, you can place things right inside of a wall, and normally it would show up as red. You can collide objects. Place Anywhere allows you to place objects on top of each other. You do get flickering issues like in Planet Coaster, but you can nudge things. And I can even bring down that scaling to 0.1. So we could just nudge it a tiny bit to a point where our flickering goes away. There you go. So the way I use all those nudging tools, everything you need is going to be on your numpad. So you're gonna have to make sure you have your num lock on, and essentially, yeah, your numpad is your big controller here. So the numpad is laid out as in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, but it also is laid out like arrows. 8 is up, 4 is left, 6 is right, and 2 is down. So if you think about all that, it's quite intuitive. So obviously 8 being the up arrow, I can move it up or down, but it's barely moving at all. The buttons just above that with the backslash, or I guess the divide key, and the star, which is multiply. Divide and multiply will change your movement change steps. As you can see in the top left hand corner, it's saying I'm increasing my movement steps. Now when I push the 8 or up key on the numpad, it's jumping by bigger increments. So sometimes in my Let's Builds, you will see me pop something into place, nudge, 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 and that's what I'm doing. But in some cases, let's just say, for example, we put a poster on a wall like this, and see, I'm having a hard time selecting that poster now, and that'll now, it becomes an issue to the point where you're like, I can't select it. If I push my house back, maybe now I can select it, see, but now my house has moved. What's interesting is I've moved the house out of the way, but I want to get that house exactly back to where I wanted it. So I can push F7 to now object lock. So no matter where I am and where I'm looking, that object is locked to my controls. So if for whatever reason, if I need to back out and I'm trying to look at a sign like that writes in sign up top, when I was trying to place it, I might have actually moved back and tried to move it into place using these up, down, left, right arrow keys on the numpad. So once it's object locked, I can actually hit backspace, 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 and keep doing that until my house pops back into place. There might be a limit to how many backspaces you can do, or maybe it moved back into place and we didn't notice it. Anyways, you guys get it. There are times where I'm trying to move this and I accidentally moved my house. So backspace will undo that. So if I'm going to put this poster on the wall, I always hit F7 first, because if I want to push it backwards, and these back and forward keys, or the keys that move it towards and away from the player based off of your position, are just beside the up arrow on the numpad. So I guess it would be the 7 and 9 keys. 7 moves it towards you, 9 moves it away from you. So that's why you want it locked, because if it wasn't locked, I would now be selecting the house and this object would be in the wall. I'd have to move the house backwards to get the object back out, or I'd have to hit the backspace and undo it. So now that it's locked, I can actually reduce my steps to 0.1. There we go, 0.1, and get it as close to the wall. Tap, 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 tap. Oh, it just disappeared, and tap it forward. There, it's precisionally placed against the wall. I can hit F7 again. I've deselected and it is lined right up to that wall perfectly. So that's a great technique for placing things. Now, something like these keys. Well, by default, guys, the duplicate key is turned off in the INI. It says it right on the web page. I'm gonna have to tab out to the desktop and show you guys here, just to make it easy for you. All right, so in your place.ini file, guys, if you pop this open, anything that you want to change is all in here. Now, by default, they have these little colon things. If you want something like cheats duplicate enable on, normally by default, I think it says off, and it has one of these semicolons in front. To make it work, you're gonna have to turn it to on and remove the semicolon. Semicolon means it's going to ignore the command. So if you wanted to change any of these, you have to make it acknowledge the command by removing the semicolon and also making sure it says on instead of off. So by default duplicate is not enabled, so we're going to go ahead and enable it, and that's pretty much the only thing I change in here. So definitely do that first and then save it. So back in game, duplicate is in on, and now it's going to be your / on your keyboard, which is beside your shift key. So wasn't duplicating it for some reason. It puts it into some funky spots sometimes. So anyways, we've duplicated a key, right? But in order to rotate that into position, it could be tricky. So by default, guys, you can left and right mouse click on an object, or you can use the left and right arrow keys by your M key, which is also period and comma. They also have arrows on them. So that's increments, or you can use your mouse left and right click to rotate it. This is also a great time to object lock, so your mouse cursor doesn't accidentally select over something. But if it's not rotating on the axis you want it to, you hit control and it changes the axis, and then control again changes the axis once more. Now, I seem to have an issue. If we go to like a perfectly placed object like one of these, if I start rotating it, look at it, it's doing it on X and Y, even though it says it's changed. I can't seem to get my rotate to work. I might have to reinstall the mod. I don't really know what's going on. Let me know if you guys figure out how to fix that. But obviously it makes it very difficult if you're trying to put a poster on a wall, because you have to keep changing the axis until you get it just right. And if it's vibrating like that, guys, you can see it's jiggling. Push the 5 key on the numpad. It kind of like locks it again. It's just a little strange feature or bug, I guess. And there's see that the key's also vibrating. 5 happens when you're rotating objects with that rotation tool. Hit 5 and it fixes it. So there you go. So I got this key the way I want it, but you know, it was a lot of rotation work. Well, what you can do is I could go up to this key here and I can hit the equals key on the keyboard. It's just, as you saw in the top left corner, it said parameters were copied. If I go up to this, the 4, 5, and 6 keys will copy or paste. And these are the actual numbers on your keyboard, not the numpad. Beware of that. So the actual inline keys, the number keys that are in a row, 4, 5, and 6. Paste its X, Y, and Z. And then if you want it to paste its direction, I highly recommend locking the position again, so F7, and then we can paste its position with 1, 2, 3. And now it's exactly over top of the other key. And because it's locked, we didn't lose our selection and we didn't start moving something else. And we can move our step scales and move this into position. There you go. And this makes it really easy to start putting things where we want them. 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, and then nudge it over. And that allows you to place things very quickly, and I highly recommend that. If you ever have an issue where you're trying to move something, but something else is stuck to it, see if I can try and simulate this. Let's grab this sign, stick it to this object. See, they're moving together. And for some reason, I can't select that sign for whatever reason, or I can't separate it, and it's just stuck. All you got to do is move this one out of the way, maybe even a bit more, and you'll be able to select this mod, detach it, and they're no longer together. I've had issues where I'm like, this sign is stuck to this wall and I can't touch the sign. I can't select the sign, but I'm only able to select the wall. And it's really frustrating. And that's how I've managed to get around it. Just a simple move button. It seems simple, but sometimes you forget. So I've showed you all the snapping tools. There's also some other ones, like it snaps to the ground. If that annoys you, F2. Now I can actually place something into the ground. This is really nice if you're working on like walkways or steps or something, and it's buggering out and snapping to the ground. And then from there we can, rotate it into place. Again, my rotation is buggered out, and it's really annoying. I really wish it was on object and not world. And I don't know how to swap that. That's the only thing I can't figure out. So you guys are on your own with that rotation bug. If you figured it out, let me know, because it's bugging me. So yeah, that's the snapping tools. There's a snap to workshop grid. I'm not really sure what that means, but there does seem to be some sort of a grid on the and that's F3, and F5 is a unique one because it allows you to go outside of workshop mode. So if we go over here and we just walk outside of the green line, you'll see in the top left corner, outside buildable area, auto exit in 5 seconds. Well, if we hit F5, it'll turn it off, which means I can now take things outside of the workshop area and build it. Now I can't build, can I? Yeah, I can't build something outside of the workshop, only on the inside, but I can work from the outside now. So if there was something I wanted to get in here, but I had to get outside to do it, then this is going to just allow you to build outside. However, if I place something outside, I can now move it outside. So technically, you can build outside of workshop. You just have to place it in the borders first and then bring it over. So if you really, really wanted, you're like, darn, it ends here, but I really wanted to just build something outside of it just a little bit, well, you can place it out there, bring it over here, and there you go. It's just a little bit more work, but it is nice because it allows you to make adjustments to things from the outside if you so needed to. So that's a nice little tool there. Another nice one is F11. It says timescale changed. I recommend pushing F11 the moment you get into workshop mode, because it pauses the time of day. So when you're a very bright time of day, hit F11, it'll stay that time of day for as long as you're building. And I would actually probably go into the INI settings and keep that on by default. I keep forgetting to do that, so hopefully after this video I remember to go set mine by default. You guys will see in some of my Let's Builds that I'm building at nighttime and it's kind of hard to see, so that's something I would have to fix so it's always daytime. And then, there's a clear day mod or a command. So a quick code I highly recommend you write this down is if you open up the console with the tilde key and hit FW for Fallout Weather, then the code for Commonwealth Clear is 2B52A. Hit enter, and the sun is back. This will not take you to daytime. It'll just clear any weather at daytime. It was super foggy. Now we have clear skies again. So there we go. I highly recommend using that a lot. And then obviously we've also set the time scale so that the time won't change. Now we'll always be able to work in this time of day for as long as possible and not have everything go dark on us while we're trying to build. Sometimes you'll be working on lighting and you might want to wait till nighttime, and you will want to pause the time scale there until you're done building. You don't want the sun to start rising while you're trying to get your lighting right. So some more interesting things on the numpad. We have scale up and scale down, which is 1 and 3, which is the buttons right beside your down arrow. So we can move things up, we can push them to be towards us, we can push them away from us, and then down below as we're pushing down just beside those keys we have our scales. Now if it's scaling too much, you can change the amount it's scaling with the page up and page down on your keyboard. So if I turn that all the way up, it's going to scale more or less depending on where I've changed the step to. I think by default it's 10%. And if you want to change the rotation steps, it's the plus and minus on your numpad. So the rotation steps would be your comma and period keys, or arrow keys, I would say, beside the M button. So I usually kind of keep it where it is because your mouse pad or your mouse clicks left and right on your mouse will allow you to do it quickly. And then if you just want to nudge something, you have those keys. So I usually leave it the way it is. I don't need to bother with that. The big one I change a lot is the divide and multiply for movement steps, because sometimes you want to move something quickly. So, you know, having that step big is always nice. And then if you want to nudge it into place, we bring it all the way down, and now I can just start tapping it into place for the small details. And lastly, I do have one more thing to show with this mod, is the physics. So if we drop a pistol on the ground, as you can see, it has physics, so I can actually kick it around. Well, if I want to pick it up, we can do that in game with hold the A button, and we put it on something, it's just gonna fall. So if we look at the object, we go into settlement mode, we look at the object and push end on our keyboard, it turns the physics off, and home just above that turns the physics on. So we can now pick this up and we can nudge that into her hand. There you go. And at any point, if I turn the physics off, oh, it might not fall because it's in her hand. It's kind of glitched into place, but oh, there, no, sorry, I turned the physics off. There we go, I turned them on again, and there we go, it just falls to the ground. So if there's anything in the game that you're just like, this thing, I just want to turn the physics off. This is actually a way to manually decorate, because you can actually go into your inventory and just drop, go into aid, you can drop food on the ground, you can drop cigarettes, Nuka-Cola, whatever you want. Your special, it drops all this crap on the ground. We go into settlement mode, we look at it, and I can't get the cigarette, and some of the stuff might be hard to select. And there we go. Now I can put it in the air, and it's not going to fall to the ground. So it is a way to manually decorate things. And by default, the game used to be really annoying, because even if you managed to put it on a shelf, you would come back and it would have reset. Sometimes when you reset a cell, things kind of shunk. They kind of they drop their physics into place. So things would just fall off the shelf. You'd find everything you've built on the floor, because it kind of just reapplies its physics, and the thing just drops and bounces off a shelf and lands on the floor. So this is a way of manually decorating. I highly don't recommend doing it this way, other than weapons, because you could do some interesting things like we just did there with weapons. Other than that, if you wanted to use cigarettes or books or food, and you want to put that stuff on a counter, don't do it the hard way. Get a mod called Ocd Decorator, because it has all of that stuff. You want personal things, cigarettes, keys, you name it, it's in here. Everything you need. Now, some of the stuff is lore friendly. If you can see, it says I need beer to build this beer, so it still requires the resource to be in your inventory. And so if you don't have that stuff, you can open up the console and hit TGM, which is toggle god mode, and then if you back out of the menu, come back in, now I can place it wherever I want it. I have 999. It basically gives me all the resources I need, or essentially makes things free, and I can go into the house and put beer bottles down and whatever I want, and I can go into other menus, personal items, cigarettes down, some caps, whatever I want, and look how quickly I can decorate. If you're having troubles, by default it snaps to things, you can turn that off. So now I can really place something or crash it into something or place it on top of something. If the snapping's bothering you, that's where that F2 key comes in handy. But generally that snapping key is going to work in your favor, other than maybe this shelf. See, it is buggering out and doing some things, and that's where F2 comes in handy, because we can now place it exactly where we need it. So OCD Decorator is definitely one of the tools, I would say, and it's so much easier than using the things in your inventory, turning the physics off, placing it into place. This just allows you to grab what you need, snap it into place, and you're done. So highly recommend. And if it didn't place it exactly where you want it, that's when you hit F7. Now you've locked your selection. You use your nudge keys, nudge, 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 and boom, there we go. F7 again, and there we have it. And what's nice is with that, you can also scale things up. So anything that you place down with Ocd Decorator, you can make a giant gun for your gun shop, or you can make a giant Nuka-Cola bottle, a giant cigarette, whatever you want, you can do. Boom. So these are tools, guys, and they're tips and they're tricks. So it's all relevant. Another one is settlement markers. This is AI navigation. These are actually pretty cool. Like you can say, this is a leisure area. Now the AI knows to come hang out here as if it were a bar. And there's all sorts of like little things that you can add in here. So Magnolia's dance animation, if I talk to her and assign her to that, she will now go dance, and that'll be her new job. She'll do that on her shift. And what's nice about settlement markers is when you leave the mode, the pad disappears, unlike the mats one. So the mats one is also really good though, because it gives you a little bit more options than the markers mod, where that one is located. It's under resources, miscellaneous. I believe I covered this in one of my other videos, but here we go again. It'll add all these new workshops. So I can put an armor bench down, and that's not an armor bench for the player to use, but instead for the NPCs. So if you want them doing work or working at a chemistry station, that's where this mod comes in handy. So I'll have a link to what it's called down below, but I think it's called like placement mats, animation mats, something like that. So we can make a guard post, you know, someone gutting fish, warming hands. There's handrails. You can do all sorts of stuff. I think I even have one in here where it's just lean against a wall. You go lean against this wall. He's assigned to this guard post right now, and now he'll do that. And that's how I got these guys to work. He's doing push-ups. I got these dudes sitting in the just chilling in the prison, but you know, it's a job, so they'll stop doing it after a while. How do you make this guy permanently do that? How do you make this guy permanently do that? Well, part of the settlement markers mod is this typewriter, so you can print out a efficient schedule, which is customizable through a holotape. A1 project efficient schedule. So you have to craft this at a chem station. Once you've crafted that, you pop in the holotape, and you can configure your custom schedule. So I can say set a rest day, and I can set that rest day to none. And essentially sleep, I can set it to none. Sleep start and sleep end, if they're the same, they won't use it. So you go through all this stuff and you make it so you have a 24/7 schedule where they can never leave or do anything with. And then you print that out at the typewriter here, and you can also do a day shift and a night shift. So I can tell this guy, I can trade with him. He has the efficient schedule. So let's say he didn't have anything in his inventory. I can give him the efficient schedule, so he just stays there 24/7. Or I could say, you know, you're on night shift or day shift, and I can give someone else the night shift to work this post. And basically he'll go to bed, the other person will come out and work this post, and during the day he'll stay here. At night someone will guard that. So that's how you kind of use that mod. So settlement markers is great just for the schedules and, you know, getting someone to do their job 24/7. So that's definitely like a tool that I recommend. And then some other stuff, guys, like Homemakers are a really good one, because like look at all the stuff you get in here. In structures, you can build like you know, bunkers. You can make all sorts of crazy things with these, and it's all snaps and stuff, right? So now I can go ahead and make myself a bunker if I want and put all that stuff together. It has diners, so you've seen these throughout the wasteland, and this is like basically like a diner construction kit of some sort, and I can do all these crazy diners and things. So that's pretty cool. And then, you know, you have greenhouses. If you want to build an institute building, we have all that stuff as well. So you can make something really clean and modern and futuristic with all the floor panels, the railings and stuff. It's quite awesome. You know, they have large prefabricated structures. You got to be careful. Like if you build something, I've used this one in particular in the past. I can't seem to place it. Let's turn ground snapping off with our tool. Try to build inside of here. The AI actually won't go in here. because there's a collision box over the whole thing, which actually means there's an invisible wall here. The AI won't go inside. So something like this is actually kind of useless, only for decoration purposes or background scenery. So be careful with some things. I'm pretty sure all these houses work. They have proper nav meshes and things of that nature. So you could build like a cabin or a camping retreat. You could build like different styles of housing, and there's a lot of them, so you can really just build these things and decorate them. There's lighthouses. You would have to download Homemaker and look at all the stuff in here because it goes on for days. That was just the structures, and then you go into decorations. There's landscaping, vehicles, miscellaneous, floor coverings, signs, and then even with your power, there's all sorts of different lights, generators. There's over 1,000 items in this pack. So unfortunately, it's at the end of the menu. So if I want to go get a bed, I can go all the way in here and go to decorations, and then I would go to where would it be? Furniture, seats, surfaces, fixtures, beds, and then there you go. I can look through the beds. So these are the beds that come with Homemaker. But now if I go to the regular game, they're all the way over here in furniture, beds, and these are the ones that come with the regular game. However, you'll see some of these beds have an M on them. Down at the bottom, M, that's for mod. I have another mod called Settlement Supplies Expanded, and that adds a whole bunch of new stuff, as you see here, which is similar to Home Builder or Homemaker, but it adds it to the vanilla menus, which is way, way more handy because now I don't have to go to Homemaker, which is all the way over in another menu, to put down this bed because I can find it from this mod in the vanilla menus. And I really like it because now when I go to my chairs, I have all the chairs from the vanilla game, and then I have a whole bunch more that you'll see later on that have an M on them. There's one, there's one, there's one, there's one. All these are new chairs with settlement markers or settlement supplies expanded, and it consolidates them, puts them all into one spot. So again, guys, that's a tool. That's a building tip because now I can just go to one place when I'm doing chairs, furniture, beds, and it's all in the vanilla menus. However, there are times when I'm trying to do something crazy, and that's where I like to go look at Homemaker because it has some wild, crazy, and wacky stuff like, trees, and has some crazy computers. That stuff probably I can't find in the vanilla game or even Settlement Supplies Expanded. So sometimes I'll go over here to check out any really strange or big objects that might be in here, and that's part of your tools and tips, right? Easy Home Builder is also amazing. I kind of covered this a little bit in some other videos, but it does give you all the prefab houses that come with Sanctuary. I've mentioned this before, guys. It comes with pre-war textures, so everything looks new again. That's how we rebuilt everything to look like Sanctuary, but I downloaded the post-war texture pack. So it has all the prefabbed houses, but what's really nice about this one is it comes with the build kits. So if we want to build a house from scratch, we can do that. It's pretty awesome. It has everything. And then we can put doors on it. We can put roofs on it. So you want to play The Sims and build a house. We have foundation, everything you need to build a house to look like these. You want a 2-story, 3-story, 4-story, you want an extension, you can do that, and it actually looks seamless. Like, we could add onto this house and you wouldn't even notice. We could rebuild that house using these pieces and you wouldn't even notice. And we could build the same roof and everything. That way we could essentially rebuild this house but make it longer. I really, really like this mod, and it is a tool and a tip for rebuilding houses, and it comes with its own unique furniture and different things that are quite useful as well, and some jobs and stuff. Other stuff I've covered in my mod list videos, like, miscellaneous things that I have in my game now are from a lot of my mods that I covered in the mod list, like Plant Me. You'll see these plants in here, as well as wall decorations. That one pack I recommended was lore-friendly posters, and that's all these. So I covered that in my mods video, as well as business signs. And that's all the signs that you guys have been seeing me use. These are, again, tools and tips. Whenever I'm building, I put all the stuff I'm going to need for whatever shop I'm building. So if I'm building a restaurant, I'm going to go in and find all the restaurante signs and place them down on the street and then find a use for them later. It's there to remind me of what I'm going to use, and I don't have to go sifting through this gigantic menu, blah, through here, go crazy, and find all the things one by one. Place it all down. You don't have to find it later. If you need 2 of them, you can walk up to it and you can hit duplicate. And while it does duplicate it on this funky rotation, we can hit the equals key to copy the coordinates, hit 4, 5, and 6, straightens it out, and there you go. Now it's perfectly straight, and we have 2 of them. So definitely handy. And then the last one I really want to recommend is the weapon and armor display cases mod, or it's called display shelves or something. But yeah, you can do some pretty crazy stuff. They all snap together and you have tons and tons and tons of variety. Amazing for decorating your weapon shops and of course armor shops. So has everything you could possibly want to make a armor shop. And I think it comes with tables and stuff as well. I think one more I would cover is underneath buildings, wooden, master plan. The mod is called Vanilla Extensions, but you need the master plan installed as a required plugin. And this just adds some really neat things that weren't included in the game. So you have some presets, and that's how I did the tower for the Minutemen. But it also has some like just nice thing like painted blue wood. So we have color on the wood, green, just different things that look and feel different than the vanilla stuff. Some extra windows, a high window filled, and new door frames, colored door frames, interesting looking door frames. So it just extends upon what's already in the game that should have been made. So it really just makes the default kits better. Like, why didn't they have this many kinds of rails in the game that match? All the stuff matches perfectly with what you get. Like, there was no door frame for wood builds. Now you get a door frame. It's worth it for just that alone. And that's just like the wood stuff. I mean, these are all wood extensions and they are so helpful and are such a good addition. Skinny planks, like why didn't we get 1x2 skinny planks, painted planks? It's so useful. And then you have the same stuff for metal and the same stuff for concrete. And I found it all to be very helpful, and same stuff for barns. And then it has some bonuses in there. Some cloth. I really loved using this stuff for my next build, you guys will see. And this stuff snaps as well. Pop, pop. So you can do some, cloth roofs. It looks really good. I love this. So definitely one of my favorite mods, and my most recommended mods is the vanilla extensions here. Cloth walls. I mean, cloth wasn't really a category, and because of this mod, you actually can do fabric. And I like that. And it also comes with its own furniture and things like that, but I don't think you really need it because of all those other ones we've already covered. So I generally use it for these main big things. And they also have some really good fences in here, like junk fences, really good junk fences. They all snap. They're awesome. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for my tips and tricks video for settlement. Basically all the tools, or the main tools and the main hotkeys, the main mods that I use when I'm doing my settlement building. That they're probably some extras in there here and there that you'll learn throughout the episodes if you watch my Let's Builds. Certain things that I throw in there, or certain mod that I talk about that maybe wasn't covered here. Some small little niche things, but generally I covered everything in my mod list video. If you haven't seen that, check that out. But I think this gets the bulk done. If you just download those 5 or 6 mods that I mentioned here in this video and use the tools with the place everywhere that I mentioned, you are going to make some pretty awesome stuff, or you have the capabilities of doing so. And it's not a lot of menus, and it's not overly complicated. The moment you download 1,000 mods, you're looking through all these different menus and getting lost. You kind of want to just add them in one at a time, learn them, figure them out, and it'll come quickly to you, finding and memorizing where it all is. It'll be a little bit overwhelming at first, but you'll get the hang of it. So that's all of it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, smash that like button, and if you enjoy these videos, please do consider becoming a patron, as it helps me make these videos for you guys. All right, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye now.